Hello, everyone. How are you? My name is Sharon Combs. I am the producer and program manager here at Knowledge and Nonsense. I'm excited about the series that we are hosting this month. We're spotlighting some fantastic individuals, people who are professional, people who are business owners, entrepreneurs, some people who are even retired and just really deep into education. But we're going to talk to different women this month and we're going to get to know them. A lot of times when you are in something or you're working, you may feel like, man, this is hard, or I'm alone doing it on my own, or you may not know where resources are, or you may feel like the challenges you're experiencing are only specific to you. And often that is not the case. And so, with our women this month, females, we're going to have everyone from early stage executives to brand new frontline individuals. We want to talk and get to know these individuals. Today's guest is amazing. Her name is Malinda Elammari, and I am so excited that she is going to share with us about herself, her story, her journey, um, her penchant for greatness. That the fact that I see her, I'm watching this chart, I'm watching this trajectory where she is continually learning and being open to learn and being open to help and being open to educate. And I would love to know more about her. So she's going to come on today. We're going to ask her some questions. You all know what to do in the meantime. Share this video. Share the video, put any comments you have, any questions you may have, but share this video. And if you know someone that you feel like would be an awesome addition to this selection of personnel that we're featuring this month, please let me know. 214-717-5921. You can text the name and the email of that person, and someone from our team will reach out. But without further ado, let me play this intro one more time, give you time to like, subscribe, share, get your water, settle in. And when we come back, we'll have Malinda with us. And yeah, we're about to start this journey. I'm excited. Hello.
Hi. It's Friday. I dissed the water. I got coffee. So.
Listen, water is good for you. I found out this year that we have something called rocks in our ears. And if you don't drink enough water, then your rock can fall out of place and mess up your equilibrium. Who knew?
Then you have a boulder.
Yes. And may they be locked into place. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today here on Knowledge and Nonsense as we're featuring amazing people. I'm going to say you're amazing. You may not say that, but I am going to say you're amazing. I've been watching you maybe for about 2.5, 3 years.
Just kind of creepy. No, just kidding.
Yeah, creepy stare. No, I do like to support, encourage, and it actually encourages me to see other individuals navigating a career, scaling a career, whether they're scaling up or scaling even in a linear fashion, but making progress. And I like to listen and hear and learn from those individuals. Sometimes I think what we see reflected is not an accurate depiction, and we're left with our own stories because we haven't listened to the person who's actually living that story share. And so hey, no, I don't want to get super deep immediately, but tell us a little bit about who you are.
Cry. First, thank you so much for having me on. I would say ditto to you. I've been watching you, and since our first time we did the first podcast with Denard and stuff. So thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I'm really honored.
Likewise. So how did you come? You know what? I'll make it easier. Tell us, where are you from? A little bit about who you are, how you became who you are.
Ooh, that's a good question. So from, I guess, this is one of those questions, right? Like that, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit, right? Because it's like, okay, you see me and people are like, oh, where are you from? And they, it's like they think some nationality concept, right? Versus, and ethnicity versus like, okay, where are you born kind of thing. So you never know. But I was born in New Jersey, grew up in Florida, and now I'm in North Carolina. So I am what North Carolina people call a halfback. I made it halfway back where I came from. And so love North Carolina, absolutely love it. So that's pretty much where I'm from. Who I am. I like to say I'm a Pola deacon. I'm I'm Polish, Puerto Rican, Italian, German. I'm pretty much the United Nations. So
That's funny. You
so
sound
that's
like Tiger Woods.
yeah.
You said he was a combination.
There, see, exactly. So just very diverse, mixed, but not Arab like a lot of people think because they're Muslim. So
Thank you so much for sharing that. When I actually ask where you're from, I've learned I don't put anything on it. So I'm like, are you from Detroit? Are you from California? And I've learned that now, 25 years ago, I would have been right there making assumptions.
mm-hmm.
And assumptions actually create barriers between people and barriers to greatness, collaboration, everything. So thank you so much for sharing that. Do you find that you actually having a little Jersey, a little Florida, a little Charlotte, a little North Carolina? I love Charlotte, by the way, Queen City. I lived there 7 years. Do you find that that helps you both personally and professionally with how you're able to interact with others?
Oh, for sure. I think like me personally, I've always been a person who I'm very open to different cultures, different nationalities, different ways of doing things. I love to learn different ways of, processes and that kind of stuff. So it really intrigues me that like, for instance, New Jersey, they call something different versus, Florida and, instrumentation. Like New Jersey, they'll call a tonsil a schnit. And in Florida, they call it a tonsil. And so then you got people who are traveling from, up north and they come down, they're like, oh, I need a schnit. And we're like, you actually give them a schnit and they're like, no, I want an actual tonsil. It's like, okay, this is so confusing, right? But, and that can go from the west to the east, and things are different. And so I find having that different variety kind of helps understand a little bit more. It was a learning curve, I would say, coming to North Carolina. Not as much as I thought it would be, to be honest, but it was a little bit of a learning curve. Like, those Southern sayings, like the first time somebody told me, oh, bless your heart, I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And somebody was like, yeah, no, they don't mean that.
That insulting. It was an insult.
Yeah. Wow. Like, that's not what they mean. So, just learning different ways and navigating, but I love it. I love learning different cultures, different places and stuff. So makes the world go round.
I know you work with a certain company. I'm not going to ask anyone on LinkedIn will be able to find out, but I know you work with a certain company. Prior to and during your time working with that company, were there things that you did to position yourself for growth? Like, did you know when you came in, I want to scale, I want to educate, I want to teach? Did you have a plan when you came, or were you just glad to be in the building initially?
No. So I honestly didn't have a plan for my life, period. I never wanted a career. And that's the funny part about, anybody who ever knew me when I was younger, they're like, wait, you do what? So, and I always tell this story, but like in 5th grade, I remember my teacher saying, what do you guys want to be when you get older? We all had to do that whole career thing and stuff. And I stood up and said, I don't want one. I just want to be a mom. All I wanted to do was be a mother. And they were like, everybody in the class laughed at me. I remember everybody laughing and going, "Oh, like that's crazy." And my teacher was like, "Well, you can do that, but you can also have a career." And I was like, "You don't understand. I don't want one. I just want to."
Your
So
mother.
yeah, I never positioned myself. I wasn't the best student all the time, so we'll just leave it at that. So, I never positioned myself to like, oh, okay, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to be a doctor, or, like I didn't have those ambitions in life. And so even being I started in the medical field as a surgical technologist. And that's what brought me in. I was, going to school. I worked 2 full-time jobs and a part-time job, and went to school and, just tried to make my way. But, I mean, I was married at the time. So I got married at 17. So been married for quite a while. And just let's put this out there, was a Muslim before I got married. So no, I didn't become a Muslim to marry my husband. So that's the other assumption that everybody makes. And so I just like worked and, wound up in the surgical tech field. Somebody I knew, my husband's friend had a friend who was a surgical tech. Otherwise, I didn't know that even existed, because every time you hear about the hospitals, what do you hear? You hear
Doctors and
about
nurses.
surgeons, exactly, surgeons, doctors, nurses, and that's it. Nobody talks about the team that's needed to clean that hospital. Nobody talks about the team that feeds those people, or the team that does sterile processing, or surgical techs. Like all of these jobs that are there, nobody talks about that. And I think that's such a shame, because people like myself, you don't know about it until somebody tells you and you're like, oh, okay. So yeah, that's how I started, was being a surgical tech.
I love that. It sounds like, even though you said you wanted to be a mom, and I bless that, there's, you know, we put things on scales, but you determine your own scale. You know what I'm saying? You determine what's going to be weighty in your own life. But so you didn't really have a plan, yet you worked hard. If you're working 2 jobs, like, and going to school, that's not easy work. I don't care what anyone says. That's not easy work. And
No,
so,
it was not. It wasn't a fun time. It was more of, okay, head down, buckle down. We've got to do this to reach a goal, and you got to put in the work to get to the end point. The whole process is not fun most of the time, but you got to put in the work because you want that end goal. And so the end goal was, okay, I have a career. And once again, even going into as a surgical tech, my goal was I was going to have a career if, God forbid, something happened and I had to support the family, right? Like it was a backup concept. It wasn't like a lifetime goal of a career. And so, unfortunately, we weren't blessed with children, but, I like that was it. Like, it was like, okay, well, I found myself later at a sterile processing field, which I totally fell in love with.
wow.
And then just that was it. I was like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I found what I was meant to do. And then getting the job, my current job, was just like, okay, I won the lotto. I have this fantastic job that I absolutely love and work with the most amazing team. So I'm like, this is the best that could ever happen.
I love it. Can we, again, like I said, this being the series we're hosting, can we talk a little bit about the building time? When you said you just had to put your head down and do, oftentimes people see, and what they see, they draw conclusions or whatever. And, technology is fast. AI is here, it's fast. Instagram is fast. Instantgram, Instagram. Snapshot. All of these things are so fast that a lot of sometimes I don't want to say a majority, a large portion of the time when I'm interacting or I'm talking with somebody at a speaking engagement, whatever, they want something and they decide they want it day one. And then they truly believe they should have it day two. And they're frustrated day 3 and 4. And I'm like, wait a minute. They're so how do you help people? Because I know you educate and I know you educate on the field, but I know even when you're talking to other people, you're going to be helpful. How do you help people realize like building time is okay?
That's funny because, I love instant gratification just like the next person. Trust me. I love Amazon. I mean,
Me
next
too.
day, next day delivery. But when it came to this and career, one of the things to your point that I really try to emphasize with people that either I'm mentoring or having a conversation with is every part that you go through within your career is a stepping stone. It's a building block to making you to who you are. Now, you can go through the worst situation ever. That's a learning process for you. That's you either learn what you want to be or what you want to do, or who you don't want to be or who you don't want to do. So we've all been through jobs and positions where we're just like, okay, this person is so nasty. I have to work with this person, or my manager is just so mean or doesn't know how to manage. Okay, fine. Now learn from that. Learn when you are a manager, what are you going to do differently? How are you going to handle that situation differently? Don't just sit there and cry about it. Take it as a learning lesson. And every little piece that you go through, I love to say everything in your life is a season. It's a season you have to go through to get you to the next season in your life. And in the end, making yourself into the part that you want yourself to be. Then you have all of these experiences to pull back on, to fall back on, to look and say, okay, I remember when this happened and this is how it was handled. I liked it, or I'm going to do it differently.
Okay. Well, then, if you're okay, I would like to lean in a little there. And again, you don't have to lead. However you take this question, however you respond, pull from whatever of your life dimensions you would like. Mm-hmm. What are some of the challenges you've encountered? Not like an interview for a job challenges, Don't tell me about the time when they added a tray and didn't tell anybody. Like no real challenges in order to be sustainable in your role and still have capacity.
I face challenges. For, before like my last name, even as a teenager and stuff, because, I have a Puerto Rican last name and, growing up, how does that look? I've had to face challenges when I was younger. I grew up in a very, very bad neighborhood. I grew up with having friends being killed by gangs, grew up with, drug use, alcohol, everything. And I've had I had a very abusive childhood. And so going from that period and being able to move past that, I could do what a lot of people do and just sit in a corner and cry and blame the whole world about my life. Or I can choose to, once again, those are lessons in my life that I know this is what I want to do differently. And this is what I'm never going to be, or move past it and just put the work in to be better. So growing up was a huge challenge. Just to survive truly was a challenge. Then getting older, even going through surgical tech school as a Muslim, when I first became Muslim, I didn't wear the hijab for about 2 years. because I wasn't ready, and I was trying to, like, I didn't want it to be I'm going to put it on today and take it off tomorrow kind of thing. And so I remember my director found out that I was of the program, sorry, of surgical tech, found out that I was Muslim. And she pulled me into her office and was like, I want to make sure that you're going to be able to handle this career. Surgeons are really nasty. They talk nasty. They're mean. They can be very abusive and this and that. And I'm like, are you talking to anybody else in this class about this? Like, why me? Just because, just even being through the program was fun. I faced challenges even just getting jobs and promotions. That wasn't, like, some companies don't want this to be the face of their company when, you say, oh, I'm the manager or director of, this division, that kind of stuff. So, that's another challenge, going through those kind of different things. Sometimes facing challenges of, okay, well, even as a scrub tech, right? Like, how do you scrub and wear a hijab, right? That's or sterile processing. How do you keep yourself covered and respect your religion, but still have to follow the rules? And, when they don't provide, adequate like covering and stuff for you. So, those are definitely some challenges, but I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I never really thought about it that deeply.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I think, for career challenges and stuff is, I would say my biggest challenge for me was self-growth, just knowing like that, or realizing that if I'm going to be better, I'm the one who had to make it better myself. Nobody was going to do it for me. So I think that was one of my biggest challenges in growing in my career and just absorbing the knowledge and stuff. So.
Wow. We're going to take a quick commercial break. I really thank you for sharing that, because even as you're speaking, I'm realizing this series is focusing on, like I said, focusing on women, their impact, their challenges, their struggles, their wins, their victories, their gifts, their strengths. Like, I'm not limiting anything. But as you were speaking, it hit me afresh. Right. I experience things, not that you experience, but there are things that people see just because it's what they see. And as you were saying it just hit me, right? They would see the covering. I was thinking maybe more of your challenges would be being a female, but they're going to see attire maybe even before they get to that. Oh my gosh. So let's take a commercial break, because again, not because you had to do it. Audience, I don't want you mad or listening. We're at the changing of an age. People laugh at me when I say it. It's not just the changing of a decade. We're at the changing of an age where mindsets and perspectives, they're all clashing. And some are fighting for dominance, and some are just willing to realize, like, we can all work together. Like, so, I mean, wherever you are on this spectrum, don't walk away from here angry. Walk away aware, and let awareness drive your behavior. When we come back, I'd like to maybe ask you, and I'm going to try to make this the last question that I didn't submit. I would like to ask you, like, what are some things you've done? Maybe whether you felt like you had to do, or like your skill set is like, okay, no, this is what I want to do, to help people get to know Malinda, to help people get to know you, your skill set, what you bring to the table, not just what they read or on a resume. Like, no, this is what I truly contribute, not just personally, but also, I mean, not just professionally, but also personally. Like, I'm someone you probably want to know. And I know people wouldn't say that, but I feel like you are. So when we come back, do you mind answering and kind of sharing some of the things you had to do, navigate, suppress, or engage in, so that people can get to know Malinda? All right, guys, we'll be right back. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. This is Knowledge or Nonsense. My name is Sharon Combs. My guest is Malinda Elammari, and we are talking about just her trajectory, her story, and her penchant for the things that she does to empower others, empowering herself as well, but empower others and help others get to be able to enjoy life more. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Thank you so much, Linda. So, maybe not even just today, but what are some things you've engaged in, whether you felt like you had to or didn't, to allow people to get to know Malinda?
Oh, that's a good question. I was trying to think about this over the break. I'm like, um, you know, I think first of all, like, I think my personality is I'm the kind of person who like I'm the class clown. I love to make a joke and play around and just have fun. I live by the if you can't laugh about it, like really, come on, so like um so for me, I think it's just getting people past this, what they see, and getting to them to understand that, like, okay, I have a sense of humor. We can joke, we can talk. Um, I've often had to be the first in the room to crack the joke, right? About being Muslim and, just start it off and be like, okay, let's get this out of the way, guys, because like, look, if you can't laugh about this stupid stuff out there or talk about it, then you shouldn't be representing it to me. I mean, I feel like there's different ways to go about what you represent and your beliefs. And if I choose this religion, which I chose this religion at 16, I made that choice, so I should be able to stand there and joke about the different nonsense that's out there about it. So that's usually the first thing, to lighten the mood and get people to understand, yeah, let's joke, we can talk. My teammates, they pick on me all the time, and I'm the first one to throw it out there. But I just want people to understand that just because you see somebody with a hijab, doesn't mean that they're like all stuck up, snooty tooty, can't joke or don't have a life. That's another thing.
And okay, because you really don't know that person.
Yeah.
You may know their religion, similar to someone else who may have a cross on their neck or something. It's an outward indication of a choice they've made, at least here in America. That's one thing I love about America. Yeah. We have our challenges, but you have a choice.
Yes.
You have a choice. I've traveled many places, and it's not always, whatever you're going to do is not always a choice.
Yeah.
So, no, yeah, I like that, because really, and that is why I would say knowledge or nonsense. I like to talk about some of these things because it's nonsense. Whether it's intentional or not, it's no reflection of your intellect, but it's still nonsense you don't know yet. You don't know that person.
Yeah. And if you don't ask, how would you ever know? Like if you don't stop and ask a question, and I understand there are some people out there that, like, when you ask them a question, and once again, that goes back to my point I just made. If you ask them a question, they get like an attitude about it and stuff like that. It's like, how do you expect people to know and learn from what they're seeing and what they know and make those distinctions between reality and what those perceived nonsenses are, if you're not willing to share and talk about things with them. So myself as a Muslim, as a woman, we've got to talk about these things so that we can make people aware what it's like, what it feels like to be in our shoes.
Yeah, I love that. So I hope we continue to have conversations about this and not just be afraid of cancel culture all the time. This is not a pass to be disrespectful, demeaning, or anything like that. But we're saying education is available.
Exactly.
It's available. So, all right, I wanted to ask you this. What are 3 things you believe women in healthcare need to develop for longevity in a healthcare career?
So I think for me, and this is from my experience, I think understanding emotional separation. I will
expound.
I will say, as a woman, and not every woman's like this, so please don't take this personal, but, as a woman, we tend to be very emotional with our decisions and the things that we do. We let emotions play more of a part of versus a typical male. So and I think we're seeing a little bit of a paradigm shift in that with the more women in the industry and workforce and stuff, but I think there's still some lessons to be learned there. And I mean, the separation of emotional, like, because you're friends with somebody doesn't mean you should let them get away with not doing their job if you're the manager, kind of thing, right? Like if you you're in a meeting and you don't agree with something, don't let the emotions take over and, lose your cool. Okay. Yes. Lose your cool in the meeting, and make yourself look insane because you know what I mean? So I think there's different spectrums of that emotion concept, but I feel like as a woman need to make sure we're understanding and we're just mindful of it and keep that in check. I would say another thing is keep it in perspective. And I think this kind of rolls into what I just said. But, and I don't think this is just for women. I think this is for everyone. And, when you're going through your career, keep your life in perspective. We talked about those stepping stones. Don't get bogged down with, oh my God, this is the end of my life. And whoa, woe is me kind of thing. Keep it in perspective. This is just, once again, it's a season you're going through. What's your next season going to be? And that's your decision, right? Like, how do you navigate to your next season in life and make sure that you're prepared for that season? How do you build onto that? So if you're going into winter, do you got a jacket and stuff? It's a corny analogy, but to me, that's like how I think about it. Each step, you need to pull something from it, learn, move on, add to your repertoire. And I would say the third thing I would say is always take advantage of opportunities to better yourself. I so many times see so many people in our industry say, to your point, right? Like, I want to grow. I want to be a manager. I want to do this. I want to do that. And you're like, okay, well, did you get your certifications? No, we don't require those. Well, that doesn't mean you shouldn't get them. Like, get your certifications, grow yourself, your own knowledge, join different groups and activities. Sometimes it's, a focus of, well, I'm not getting paid for it, so I'm not going to do it. And should that be your attitude if you really want to grow and better? Because how are you going to mentor someone else to grow and better if you're not even having that mindset? And I speak from my own experience. I had to, that's another concept that I had to just like get myself to, because I was like, well, I'm not getting paid for this, and nobody's, giving me any initiative to go and take this class, so I'm not going to do it. But then at one point I had to realize, if I want to be better, I got to do stuff better. So Yeah, I think
Yep.
those would be my three.
Those are amazing three. Guys, if you have any questions, again, please put them in the comments. Um, we'll get back to you with a response. So, with that, then, so you've learned those things over up until this stage, just over the course of your life. I love that about the stepping stones and realizing, things are a season. I often say, and I had to learn this myself, life is never really the sum of one decision, not the sum. Now, it may have an impact, but it's not the sum. So, whatever the decision is, whether it's amazing or whether it's, oh, how did I? There's more. If you're here today, there's more. And so, those three things you're using them and you're developing the career. So, how do you like prioritize? You had mentioned about, I'm going to use my words, but this was my takeaway from something you said earlier. Not to make it a buzzword about balance, but like there is a different, you mentioned something about like your personal life, like home life, just different things. How do you prioritize? Like what actually qualifies for your no? How do you prioritize? What am I going to do? What gets a no and what gets a yes?
Right now, I feel like I say yes to everyone, and that's literally, yeah. Um, for me, I would say, and I'm learning this as well. Like, even though I've been doing this for so many years and throughout my career, it's always that balance of yes, I can do this, no, I can't, and being involved. For me, it is what I'm going to agree to do first. Is it something like who's asking, right? That to me is the first priority. If it's my boss asking, I'm going to do my best to do what I need to do to show my boss my value, my knowledge, and my commitment, right? I think if it's for something else like a activity that's a volunteer committee or something like that, I have to often step back and say, okay, can I fully give this the commitment it deserves? And if I can't, I don't feel like I'm going to be able to fully give that the commitment, then I have to say no for the time being, and just respectfully decline that offer. I will be honest, there are some times where, I'm like, this is going to be a struggle, but I know doing this is going to help advance me into something else. So I'm just going to have to suck it up and put the commitment in, right? Because the long-term goal is what I'm looking for here. Or if it's something that I just love and enjoy, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be rough, but you know what? It's worth it, that kind of thing. So,
All right. So no, I love that. I love that. I do. I number one, I maybe need to work on a little more. Just being such an entrepreneur for most of my life, even though I'm in a director position now, um, I've always had more than one pot on the stove. So some rice may be cooking, but something else is also cooking, and so even with my bosses, I ask those questions you ask. Can I really do it? And I often ask myself too, am I going to be upset with someone because I said yes, but I really didn't have the time?
yeah.
Like, am I going to resent them or start avoiding them because I'm unable to fulfill? I've overextended myself, and instead of, because people, no one wants to. I think we all want to say yes.
Of course.
From a child. Oh, good job. And you're like, yay. I don't care where you're from.
Yep.
Like there's something in you want to please. But yeah, definitely if it's going to create some type of resentment, avoidance, or friction, whether within me or within the person I'm dealing with, I go ahead and have that uncomfortable, if it's going to be uncomfortable, I'll go ahead and have that conversation right at the beginning. I'm like, I can't.
Sharon, you bring up such a great point though, because it's not a one-stop shop formula for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is stuff that you have to learn about yourself. That these are your trigger points and these are the things that you have to focus on to say, yes, I'm going to say yes or no, just like myself, right? Like, what are my trigger points that makes me say yes or no? And that's just stuff that you develop over time. Once again, it's that long road, right? You're developing, you're growing, you're learning who you are. It's kind of like when you're getting into your teenage years and stuff, I'm like, ooh, what am I going to wear? Like, what's my design, my style going to be? You know, you have to develop yourself. So it's a great point. Like, we all have different ways of looking at things, and it shouldn't be, oh, well, this one says that or that one says this, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. It should be more of, oh, you know what, I heard this, so maybe I'll adapt that and see if that works for me. And that's really the growing process.
It is. I'm interviewing you. I'm going to share something.
Yeah.
I have a family member that struggled with addiction, and my family member is older than I. And so, as a teenager into my young adult years, you want to do so much because, again, a lot of people don't realize when they're projecting, because you're still seeing it through your filter, and you want to do so much. And I realized I began to resent this person. Even though I was saying yes and I was doing everything in my power, I began to resent them. Like, real talk, I began to resent them. If I was doing something with their kids because the kids needed it, but I felt like it was your responsibility and you didn't, I really began to resent them. And I had to work on my yes and my no. And I had to change. Like, no, I'm doing this for them because I love them and they're my nieces and nephews. And I don't have an expectation of you anymore about it. Not that I don't love you. I want the best for you and everything, but expectations often can breed those inner resentments. So I don't know why I shared that, but just as far as qualifying for the no, I do know why I shared it. Qualifying for the no and yes. As I grew professionally, I used to try so hard to prove why I should be there. And initially that makes sense. You don't have any experience. So the things that are going to prove value or show value are going to be like teamwork, flexibility, the initiative, willing to engage. But then, 10, 20 years down the line, you still have those things, but you become more discretionary in where you place them. And now you're working from a collaborative point, but you also are comfortable in your seat. You know what you bring now. So I'm not trying to prove to you what I bring. I am trying to collaborate with you and bring what I bring to the table. And it's just a different thing. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I've seen it with lots of marginalized communities, because it's like, for me, in my experience, and I am a certified human behavior consultant, I've seen where people are like, I deserve to be here. And I get that. But after some years, sometimes you still say I deserve to be here. After some years, I think you become more what's the word?
Complacent.
You become more selective. Go ahead. What did you say?
Complacent.
Yeah, you can become complacent, but you become more selective on who you're proving that to.
Gotcha. Yeah. No.
On who you're proving it to. Like, there are people who are complete strangers. They're not complete strangers. I may know them on LinkedIn, or they've seen me, or they saw me speak, or they've seen you, and they will say their opinion. And if I do not yield, not even yield, but if I don't perform to their opinion, like if what they see is different than the opinion they made before they met me, it's like, well, you're hard to work with. Well, how do you know? You've never worked with me. You've never worked with me. That's just like distributing the deliverables.
I think too, to your point, when you get older, you start having life, all those experiences, and you're like, it's funny because when you're younger, people always say stuff, oh, when you get older, you're not gonna blah, blah, blah. Or when you get older, this, and you're like, oh yeah, whatever. And now you're older and you're like, yeah, no, I really don't care what you think. No, I really don't, and so your choice of who you're trying to please just changes so much. And you're just like, here's my filter. Are you paying my bills? No? Oh, okay, never mind. I don't care what you think, kind of thing, and so that's, you're not paying my bills. You're not, I don't know, you're not creating those emotional things that I need in my life. Hey, whatever, sure.
And that's what I say, like with marginalized communities, oftentimes, and studies are so disguised, you can feel free to Google it, Bing it, whatever you like. there is an overwork or like not even just a people pleasing, but a fear that drives the pleasing thing. Like I can't say no, I can't say no, to the point that it affects health and different things like that. And so, no, now I just be like, okay. And I want to listen, I want to work with you all. I do. Don't take it the wrong way. But I am a fan of there's a distribution to this thing. There is a distribution of duties. There is a weight. We all carry something or bring something. And again, I'm just sharing that because I often see with some like we have a business accelerator group where we help people early stage female executives, and I often see it. I see it in the apologies, the amount of apologies. I feel like there should be a cap on the amount of apologies in a 30-minute meeting. Like, you get 5 M&Ms. If really in a 30-minute meeting you get 2. So, but I've seen it, and so that's why I was just kind of.
And that's another good one that I think us as women do is apologize for everything, and I catch myself doing it, and I'm guilty, but I have lessened it over the years of I heard somebody speak one time, and they were just like, why do you apologize? If a woman will apologize way more than a man will, and I'm like, I literally ask myself now when I'm doing stuff, I'm like, would a man be apologizing for this right now? No? Okay. Well, here's what, like that kind of thing. So I'm
I
not
used to
so
do it.
sorry.
I used to do it. And again, it does come up because it was almost muscle memory for me.
Yeah.
I felt like I had to say it every time, even though I knew I had researched the information, the data was real. These are numbers. This is black and white. It has nothing to do with me. And I should be like, well, I'm sorry. Will you be my friend? And, I'm not making fun. Listen, if that's you, hey, be encouraged. Be
But
encouraged.
it's all a learning process.
Yeah, it's all a learning process. Keep your head in the game. Stay with us. We look forward to celebrating you. But I don't apologize like that anymore. I sit in the seat. I may say sorry, but I'm going to sit in my seat.
Yeah. And truthfully, it's like, it's a beautiful thing when you think about it. It's a beautiful thing that you grew to the person you are and learned, the different navigations through life and stuff like that through, going through experiences and research and learning and stuff. It's, you became this beautiful, successful person. And hey, it's like, okay, this was my life. This is kind of to what you guys are trying to do for this month. These are what we've gone through, and now you're developing into these. And I say beautiful, not just meaning look wise. I'm just saying beautiful in general. It's amazing.
All right. I want to do one more question, and then I want to do one more commercial, and we'll have a final question. Now, before I go to this commercial, the final question is going to be if you could scream one thing, unless you want to tell a joke. If you have a joke that you're sitting over there with, and you're like, I have a joke, share that with us. But when we come back, it's going to be if you could scream one thing from the rooftops. What would what would it be? You could do that.
Okay.
And again, if you have a joke, I'm all game for a joke because I feel like you enjoy your laugh. So.
I do.
The things that you laugh. Okay. Before we go to commercial, I do have 60 seconds that I can do this in. What is if you have a preferred humor? Is it dry and witty? Is it little sarcasm? Is it humor that people don't really know is humor, but it's really funny, like Big Bang Theory?
I honestly don't subscribe to one version of it. I am just right. I can be very sarcastic in a fun way. I'm just like, oh, bam. And, and people are like, what, but I think people kind of expect it from me too, because I'm always cracking jokes and, saying stuff. I love dad jokes. I think they're so stupid and they're so funny that they're so stupid that I love them so much. I'm like, okay, but yeah.
I do laugh at dad jokes too. I like dry humor.
Yeah.
I like dry humor that someone says it and you're like, And then you really catch it and you just bust out laughing. All right, let me go ahead. Let me share a sponsor. Boop, 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 boop. You know what? I'm going to share something about, if you guys don't know, there's a concept called Scrub Ball that happens every summer in the DFW area. Please look it up, Scrub Ball. And it simply means if you rock with scrubs, they rock with you. And they celebrate healthcare heroes. Of course, there are CEs and things involved. But if you don't know about it or if you haven't attended, please go to scrubball.org. I really think you would enjoy it. And one of the sponsors of this scrubball.org is a bank called Frost Bank. And this is what I'm saying, like, even though it feels like we live in a hospital, that we work all day, we don't. We live in a real world. And I'm going to show a commercial from Frost Bank because Frost Bank does so much to help entrepreneurs, to help other businesses. They're very community involved. Wherever they are, they're community involved. From grocery stores to like Little League, junior basketball, you're going to see their little stamp somewhere in the corner where they are actually giving back to communities and funding, sponsoring certain activities. So let's take a few seconds and let's get to know a little more about Frost. And when we come back, Malinda's going to let us know what she would shout from the rooftops or whisper in the ear of the most powerful person in the world. All right, thank you so much. I love supporting Frost Bank because it is about more than money. Sometimes in our life and in the grind and in going to get something, we're like, no, it's not. And most people who say that, we need a little more. But I do want you to know life is more than just money. Malinda Elammari is with us, a healthcare voice, a healthcare leader, just sharing with us parts of her journey, her wins, her struggles, just her personality. Amazing. Malinda, if you could shout one thing from the rooftops, what would it be? And if you're not into shouting, if you could whisper it in the ear of the most powerful person.
Me not into shouting. Okay. But first I want to say with that commercial, I kind of like, as soon as they said, it's not what you do when people are not looking. It reminded me of like, our surgical conscience and what we do in the sterile processing and stuff, not taking no shortcuts. Anyway, sorry, that just
No, I love that.
Shout from the rooftop. Hey, who's my audience? Can we start there? No, I don't know. Sometimes I want to shout for people to just get there together. Sometimes I'm just like, come on, I think if I wanted to shout anything, it would be, you have the power to do it. And one of the things that I love is like, where you come from, who your family is, what your family dynamic was growing up and stuff, that does not define you. So you have the power. You can do it. You can make the changes in your life to get you on the path you want to be. Oprah Winfrey said, what did she say? It doesn't matter who you are or like where you come from. Trying to remember. The ability to triumph comes from you always. Right? So, I always think about that. It's like, once again, it doesn't define me that I grew up in the ghetto. It doesn't define me that how I grew up. I choose how I want people to perceive me, and I make myself known that way. And I utilize that past to help push me forward. I lean on that. One of the things I did want to say, that I find, like, for me, going through my life, and I always say this, when I like when I first started saying, okay, I want Melinda to be known more, to help have a voice to make this industry better. You got to start, right? And you start with like speaking engagements and stuff. And although I was never a shy person, but who loves to get up in front of people and speak? In the very beginning, you have to build that. And I went to see somebody speak named Dr. Kim, Dr. Kimberly, I'm trying to remember, Ventus Darks is her full name. But when I walked into, African American woman, her hair was just like, whoo, like, and she does it on purpose because she's trying to shock you and get your attention. But I walked in and I was just like, oh my God, what did I just walk into? But it was the most amazing, amazing seminar I ever went to. And it taught me so much. And I went to her seminar every time she came into town for like the next 3 years. And I actually just spoke to her, reached out to her, and I was just like, I want to thank you so much. Because you never know who's going to influence your life so much. And she did. In her talk, she said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Now, she wasn't the first one to coin that phrase, right? But she kept instilling it, and she had it was a much longer thing. But I picked that and I kept that. And every time I want to do something different in my life, or it's out of my comfort zone, I tell myself that. So if I'm about to stand up on stage and speak, I'm going to speak at HSPA. This is my first time. And I'm not going to lie. I'm not I'm not incredibly going to throw up nervous, but I'm not like, oh, this is fantastic. So I have to tell myself that still to this day. I remind myself if I'm going to do a different activity or something that's not in my comfort zone, if I want something different, I've got to do something different. Yeah. And I've got to change that projection. And that's the way you're going to do it. Step out of your comfort zone, give it a try, do it, and go from there.
I love it. I love it. Audience, listeners, friends, family, those in the industry, those that are not. This is Malinda Elammari, and she's sharing with you. And these are some great nuggets, some great tips. I love even that you said UCDI. I don't know if you know. You said You Can Do It. I don't know if you know, but that's a leadership company. I have a leadership company since like 99. Just like You Can Do It. I was talking to myself then, but that's what that UCDI stands for. Like, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Yeah. And so I really appreciate the things you said about go for it, just do it. Even when you said, come on now, I got what you were saying, because the driver is, come on, come on. There's better there and you know it. So come on. Yeah. And so
dig deep. You got this.
You got this. Let's go. So I want to thank you so much for being with us. Just the amazing things about how you use humor, how you give people permission, permission to come a little closer. It's okay. We don't have to be stiff in this room. We're going to work together. Even saying that you didn't have a plan initially, you happy being a mom growing up, and here you've developed an amazing career with an amazing company, doing an amazing job, and meeting and inspiring amazing people in this industry that often don't have a voice, even with Frost, how you can say, no, listen, that is healthcare as well. It's what we're doing. We're surgical conscious. So it's what you're doing when no one is looking. Like, those are more defining than when the camera's on and the mic's in your, when that's more defining than when the CEO walks through. Like, what are you doing when he's not walking through? And so for those in sterile processing, always, I don't care who I'm speaking to, always thank you. Thank you for what you do. For those in the surgical community, thank you. Thank you for what you do. For those in healthcare, thank you. Thank you for what you do, because most of the roles in healthcare are internally more rewarding than they are financially. But yet you show up every single day. And I love you for it, and I appreciate you for it.
Yep, exactly. True. Very true. Thank you all.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on Knowledge and Nonsense. And we are going to bring, yes, come on. Yes, ma'am.
Can I tell my dad joke?
Yes, tell you. Tell your dad. Let's do it.
Okay. Where do you take somebody who has a peekaboo condition?
Where do I take someone who has the peekaboo condition? I want to get it. I have no idea. Where do you take them? Where do you take them?
To the ICU. Come on.
You know what? I can't even do that. I am going to tell that to my nephew tonight. I am going to be like, yeah.
Nice.
To the ice shop. Thank you so much for the dad joke. I was really like a physical location. And listen, I love dad jokes too. They often have like little videos where they'll be sitting on the fish on the pier. Yes. So I'll watch those.
Yes,
that was good. Thank you so much. We're ending with a laugh. Y'all be safe. God bless. Be kind to people, not for wealth or fame, but because it's an awesome thing to do. It is an awesome thing to do. I promise you, it's okay. It's okay to be nice. It's okay to be kind. Y'all be safe and God bless. Thank you so much, Malinda. Oh, one last thing. Where can people find you? I always tell everyone connect on LinkedIn, but if they wanted to connect with you.
Yeah. I think LinkedIn is the best option. You know, like you joke said, where can people find you? I travel so much. All my friends have a map and they do the where in the world is Malinda kind of thing. So, but no, definitely LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is the best option, and my email and stuff is there. Anybody can get to my health mark email and stuff. So, you know, but LinkedIn's definitely the first option. And I just want to say, I hope I see everybody at Scrub Ball. So
yes,
excited. Yeah.
Yes. I will be at Scrub Ball. I'm not speaking at Scrub Ball this year, but I will be at Scrub Ball. And I'll also see you at HSPA as well. Yep. I am speaking there. So again, thank you guys so much. Have a great night. Have a great evening. And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Scrub Ball is all about celebrating healthcare. If you're in the healthcare field, no matter where you work, we celebrate you.